We'll call to order the meeting of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors business meeting Tuesday, August 21st, 2018 at 7:01 p.m. Pennsylvania County General District Courtroom, Edwin R. Shields Courthouse, Edition 11 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia, 24531. Roll call.
Mr. Barber.
Here.
Mr. Blackstock.
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. Farmer.
Here.
Dr. Miller. Mr. Scares.
Here.
Mr. Warren.
Here. I would ask that you observe a moment of silence with me, please. Would you please rise for the pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there items to be added to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we need to add, as item 14A, authorization to hire BZA attorney. And then we also need a closed session on this agenda, discussion concerning prospective business or industry for the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A5, subject, Project 1200, purpose, update on prospective economic development project and discussion of project parameters.
Can I get a motion to that effect?
Second. I make a motion to that effect.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock, second by, who's gonna push a button? Mr. Barber. Is there any discussion on the motion? Please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please. Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I need to check to amend the agenda. Do we know about this? Because I have a placement, the gentleman that could not do it because he's got a spot on his brain that they've got to diagnose, and I need to put.
Thanks for reminding us. Item 13B, we currently have listed Mr. Ben Lewis for potential appointment to the Department of Social Services. He's no longer able to do that, and we're going to need to amend the agenda to now appoint
Nancy.
Eames. So those are the three alterations or additions for tonight's meeting.
So we're going to amend the amended agenda. Okay? We got a motion to amend the agenda by Mr. Davis. Do I have a second?
He's gonna push a button.
Push your button on mover, Mr. Davis.
Oh, okay.
Do I have a second on amending the amended agenda?
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Blackstock. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously to add the three items to the existing agenda. Can I get an approval of the agenda? Motion to approve the agenda, the amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barber, seconded by Mr. Blackstock. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. Okay, please record the vote. It's unanimous. We're down to consent agenda. Board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented in the packet.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Davis. Any discussion on the motion? Please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We do have one resolution to be presented tonight, and Mr. Farmer's going to make that presentation, and it's to the Gretna High School Beta Club. I'd ask those folks to come forward, and Mr. Farmer will go down, and we'll go down along with him. Outstanding accomplishment by this group of young people. Dr. Jones, please come forward. We'll get somebody to take a picture. We'll get somebody to help us out. You want it on your hand or the phone?
I'm gonna read this and we'll say a few words, but it's my honor to say at the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors meeting on Tuesday, August the 21st, 2018, the following resolution was adopted honoring Gretna High School's Beta Club. It says the National Beta Club is the largest independent nonprofit educational youth organization in America. For more than 80 years, it has prepared today's students to be tomorrow's leaders. Between the junior beta, which are grades 4 to 8, and the senior beta, grades 9 to 12, the organization has helped nearly 7 million students learn how to make life for themselves. Active members include more than 8,750 clubs, and it has been awarded over $6 million in scholarships. There are now more than 500,000 members, internationally and nationally. It has become the nation's largest independent nonprofit educational youth organization. And at the Gretna High School, students must have a 3.5 GPA to be invited in and must maintain a 3.2 GPA. Students are also required to complete at least 25 hours of community service per semester, which includes things such as community trunk or treat at Halloween, participating in book buddies at the elementary school, and raising money for different families in need. It says, whereas Gretna High School's Beta Club traveled to Hampton, Virginia in February to compete in the statewide convention. And whereas 4 of our 9th grade students, Xander Birchfield, Eden Linkage, Brendan Myers, and Kaylee Wirtz, worked together for the first time and placed first place in the Beta Build. This was the first time Gretna High School had ever competed in this particular competition. And whereas Beta Build is a competition where the students must build or construct an invention with a given list of supplies, and they're also given a prompt that tells them certain moves that the students must make. In June, they traveled to Savannah, Georgia for the national competition. The students were given new props and lists from the Gretna High School placed 3rd in the nationals. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses their deepest congratulation and admiration to the Gretna High School Beta Club for its accomplishments in the state and national competitions. Let this resolution be resolved under my hand, given the 21st day of August, 2018, Chairman Robert Warren. Just want to say what an honor. I mean, every time all of us have the opportunity to recognize our students, whether it's athletic or academically, it makes us all proud, knowing what our good hands our community will be in the future when you young men and women finish your school and complete further education and just come back to your roots and dig in to make this a better place to live and serve. So we're so honored to have you here tonight. The parents, please be proud of your students here, of your children, Ms. Oaks, of your students. It's a lot of distractions in the world we live in today, whether it's social media, whether it's internet, whether it's just being a student nowadays at school, and to have these people rise above it and use their talents to show in all the nation of what Pittsylvania County school system has to offer. We're just so proud. So thank you all.
while Dr. Jones and Ms. Oaks is saying a few words, if parents want to come up, we'll get a picture with all of you all too. We'd love to have that. The parents of these outstanding students.
Well, I can only reiterate Mr. Farmer's comments, how very proud we are of these students. They have certainly represented Gretna High School in Pittsylvania County in the highest regard. They're not only good models of character, but they're good academic students, and they participate in extracurricular activities, so they are excellent role models for other students within our community, and we are very proud of it.
And when I heard that they were sophomores, I thought they were sophomores this past year, but they are rising sophomores this year. So we've got 3 more years with these young men and women. Outstanding students, and we greatly appreciate their parents' support of them. I understand that they traveled with them to the Nationals, and we look forward to what they will accomplish next year. So good work, students. Congratulations.
It's always wonderful to recognize our young folks. Looks like we got a pretty bright future. We're down to item 9, hearing of citizens. Each person addressing the board under hearing of citizens shall be a resident or landowner of the county, or the registered agent of such resident or landowner. Each person shall step up, give his or her name and district in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. No person shall be permitted to address the board more than once during hearing of citizens. All remarks should be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual member thereof. Hearing of the citizens shall last for a maximum of 45 minutes. Any individual that signs up to speak during said section who does not get the opportunity to do so because of the aforementioned time limit shall be given speaking priority at the next board meeting. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who has not signed up. First to sign up tonight was Miss Joan Moore. Miss Moore?
I'm Joan Moore. I live at 421 White Drive off of 41. I'm in the Westover District. And I'm just here to make some comments on this problem with the Social Services Board. I've been beginning to see why we've had a problem, because there's so much going on internally that's keeping people from doing their jobs. I have a granddaughter who is under a guardianship with my son and his present wife, her stepmom. And granted, she's deaf, but she has a cochlear implant, but she can be a good citizen if given the chance. They got this guardianship that they really shouldn't have, but that's another court issue. My problem is I went to the DSS twice. The first time I was told they could do a wellness check, and I was assumed she did, and the lady never called me back. When I called to see why she hadn't called me back, another lady who was obviously more concerned, I got the wrong person actually, but she checked and she said, this lady told her that everything was okay and she couldn't go any further. So I figured she went. Then a couple of months or whatever after that, my granddaughter, who is 20, they got this guardianship when she was 18. I was top grandma until she got close to where they didn't want my opinion about the way they were treating her, and I don't get to see her, and her other grandparents don't get to see her. Anyway, they did this to have control and get money, basically. But they live a street over from me. She ran away on her own one night. She was supposed to be there. She was there with her older stepsister. They were gone somewhere. She came through the woods, which was very dangerous, where she did, but she came to my house because she wanted to see me, and she told me she did, even though she's been coached to say something different in court. And we even came over here to court, to the county, wanted to talk to the magistrate, but we couldn't get that done. We did talk to a patrolman, and he said, well, the problem is, as long as they got these papers, I was breaking the law by not letting them know where she was. Anyway, she even told me while she was with me that she had thought about hurting herself, and she had pulled her hair out at times, because it's just a story that is long and hard to understand, but it's sad. And sometimes these guardianships, they're good, but they need to be monitored, and the right people need to have that. I'm willing to take care of her and bring her up. They've kept her behind socially, jerking her out of schools. She could be a productive citizen, and if she don't need our tax money, that's fine. But the point is, I called and set up an appointment to talk to the lady at DSS. She said that
I'm gonna have to cut you off,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
she couldn't do anything.
Thank you. It looks like Deborah Loomis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Loomis. I'm a resident of Pittsylvania County, a homeowner, and I have come this evening to represent a group of Mount Cross residents that are opposed to a Dollar General being built at the intersection of Mount Cross Road and Golf Club Road. The first question that I have, basically from doing some research, learned that zoning is in effect in Pittsylvania County as of 1993. However, this particular area was zoned B2 in 2002. Two other tracts were also in the comprehensive plan. We're questioning the legality of spot zoning because from our understanding on page 3 of the 8-page ordinance, spot zoning is illegal. We're very concerned with traffic accidents and fatalities. I myself have been involved with 2 accidents on Mount Cross Road and 1 near accident on Mount Cross Road from others speeding. Back in July, I was almost hit at an intersection by someone going 70 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour speed zone. There have been multiple fatalities even in the last year on Mount Cross Road. We're also concerned because we are a group, we're a community of neighbors and friends who've planned to spend the rest of our lives in Pittsylvania County enjoying the rural way of life. This is in jeopardy now because Dollar General has an intention to saturate the entire county with Dollar General stores. We have counted over 20 stores between Danville, South Boston, Martinsville, and Chatham. There is simply no need for another Dollar General store, and particularly not at this very dangerous intersection. We're also concerned with property values in the area. We're concerned with the noise, the trash, and the pollution, as I was assured that trucks would only run after 9 p.m. And there are tracts of land surrounding the tracts that Dollar General has proposed to build on that are residential. No one wants a tractor trailer in their backyard at 9 o'clock at night with lights shining down and people unloading things and trash being strewn about. I have a question for you. Is the loss of human life, damage to personal property, medical injuries, pain and suffering, as well as the loss the county will face of personal property tax revenue when all the residents decide to just sell their homes and leave or leave them abandoned, worth the corporate greed of Dollar General and their intention to just take over the county? I want to thank you for your time and consideration. I ask that you deeply consider this matter. I have in my possession 293 signatures of people opposed.
If you'd like to give that to the county administrator. Thank you, Ms. Loomis. Next on the sign-up sheet is Ms. Karen Mowdy.
Karen Mowdy, Westover District. I want to talk about Mountain Valley Pipeline, not the Southgate project, but the one that's currently under construction. On June the 7th of this year, I sent a letter to Ms. Hayes and members of the Board of Supervisors with questions and concerns because Mountain Valley Pipeline is constructing the pipeline through conservation C1 zone districts. And as you know, those districts are considered to be very sensitive and that they supply water for a large number of people responsible for the watershed. So because that's the case, our zoning ordinance says that for gas transmission pipelines that a special use permit is needed. I wrote again with that concern on July 24th, and then again on August 3rd, and on the one I did in July, I asked for a response, and I never have gotten any response from the county about this. It's a very important question. I know that there's been concern in the past about FERC and the fact that you may not feel like you can do anything, that your hands are tied, but you have information that's been given to you in the past where it is said that FERC expects certificate holders to adhere to state and local laws. And it also says in this correspondence with FERC, this does not mean that the state and local agencies, through application of state or local laws, may prohibit or unreasonably delay the construction or operation of the facilities. Well, in the newspaper recently is talked about how FERC has done that for you. They have delayed construction of the pipeline. It is here, this correspondence from today, which I will leave with you. It says, the project is shut down in Pittsylvania County, except for the areas allowed in our August 10th and 20th letters. Now, I don't know if they're MVP letters or what letters they are. But you can't prohibit or unreasonably delay the construction or operation of MVP if it's already been done for you. So it would look like to me now is a perfect opportunity to revisit the zoning ordinance, Division 13, and enforce the zoning ordinance for the public safety of the drinking water as it's outlined in Division 13, the importance of these C1 properties and the fact that MVP should have a special use permit for these. May I leave these with?
Yes, Mr. Smithman will take those. Thank you. That completes our hearing of the citizens for this evening. We're down to public hearing pursuant to Article 5, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance. The Board of Supervisors have been empowered to hear and decide specific zoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, the board is responsible for promoting the health, safety, and general public welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. The board must ensure that all of its decisions and regulations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and prosperity. We're down to case number 1, and I'm going to open that public hearing at 7:25. Mr. Sides.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Case 1, case R-18-013, Walter and Alice Coles have petitioned to rezone 24.13 acres located on State Road 683, South Meadows Road, in the Bannister Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to to make the zoning consistent with the adjacent parcels of land zoned A1. Once the property is rezoned to A1, then all uses listed under section 35-178 are permitted. The Planning Commission, with opposition, recommended denying the petitioner's request by a unanimous 8-0 vote. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. Rich Osborne is here to represent the petition. Rich Armstrong is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Armstrong, you can come forward. Do you have anything to add?
Mr. Coles was here instead.
Okay, Mr. Coles?
Yes. My name's Walter Coles from the Bannister District. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for giving me a hearing on the rezoning of the land described here today. This is a very simple request. I was amazed to read about the account in the newspaper about the Planning Commission denying that request last week, I believe. But it seemed, and I apologize for not being there, it seemed so routine that I thought there'd be no objections to this very simple request. Before I give you a brief history of the 24 acre parcel, let me clearly state this has nothing to do with uranium, period. It has nothing to do with uranium, period. It has everything to do, though, with the sensible business decision regarding my cattle operation and the 24 acres that joined that land in which I produced hay for cattle. The land in question was originally part of my family farm dating back to 1785, more than 100 years ago. In the early 1900s, part of that land, or the 24 acres, was sold, and over the period of about 100 years, multiple buyers have owned the land. In the 1970s, Marline Corporation purchased that land during the period that they were on the exploitation of production of uranium and exploration of uranium. Late 1980s, early 1980s, Marline departed Pittsylvania County, abandoned Pittsylvania County, and left all of their assets here without paying taxes on them. And then later on, in the 2007, Pittsylvania County sold those 24 acres and others for back taxes owed by Marline Corporation. When that was sold, my wife and I purchased the 24 acres that would join the original farm that dates back to 1785. It just made good business sense to connect those lands back with the original farm and to use it as it's been used over 200 years for agricultural purposes. Those are the reasons I'm requesting that the parcel be rezoned to agriculture. But again, it has absolutely nothing to do with uranium, and I would have no reason to mention uranium in this forum except for the fact it seemed to have played a key role in the request being turned down by the Planning Commission. Thank you again for hearing me, and I hope you will approve this rezoning request.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Coles. We're going to let Mr. Coles sit down, hear from the citizens, and then if we want to call him back and ask questions, we can. Thank you, Mr. Coles. We've got several people that signed up, so we're going to listen to them and stay close. We may need to call you back. Katie Whitehead is first to sign up.
My name is Katie Whitehead. I live in the Chatham Blair's district. I attended the Planning Commission public hearing on this rezoning request 2 weeks ago. I didn't speak, I just listened, and then went home and looked up the rezoning application process and the county land use program. Steps 4 and 5 of the application process state that the applicant must attend the Planning Commission public hearing and the Board of Supervisors public hearing. Mr. Coles did not attend the Planning Commission hearing. Had he not appeared tonight, it seems to me you would have been obliged to reject his request. He is here tonight, and though what we heard at the Planning Commission from his representative was that he was seeking agricultural zoning in order to qualify for the county land use program and lower his taxes. Agricultural zoning is not required for participation in the land use program. One can find many examples of land zone residential, I'm pretty sure, in the land use program on the county GIS system. I found several. Mr. Coles can apply for the program without your approving his rezoning request. It's understandable while many people have questioned the purpose of his rezoning request, given that you can participate in the land use program regardless, and his absence at the initial Planning Commission hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whitehead. Next up is David Dunn.
Evening, gentlemen. David Dunn, presently from Halifax County, but bred and born in Pittsylvania County. Dabney House Road, if anybody has the remotest interest there. And until recently, I owned property there that belonged to my father and my grandfather. And I sold it. Had several reasons, but one of the main ones was a concern about the potential of uranium mining in the locality. I'm president of the Virginia Coalition, an organization in Halifax, South Boston, of concerned professional and business people who wanted to learn more about this, did learn more about this, and have genuine, serious concerns. One of the reasons I sold the property is I could see the coming impact on real estate, on attracting business, on keeping business, and especially after reading a white paper by the former CEO of our hospital. It began with, "First, do no harm," which I steal from him, and I think he probably stole from an old Greek doctor. In this paper, he outlined the difficulty he was having keeping medical professionals in the county. I live in a complex that I've seen 4 doctors come through in the past 3 years, and I can't tell you that they would come up and say uranium was a problem, but something's the problem. As you well know, Halifax in Pennsylvania has a heck of a time attracting business and professionals. I don't think we need one more disadvantage to add to that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. We're down to Ms. Karen Mowdy.
Karen Mowdy, Westover District. I was surprised and pleased to hear what Ms. Whitehead had to say about the land use program. And yes, it did seem like 2 weeks ago that the main reason for the rezoning was a reduction in taxes and to put the property in land use. I email you people a lot, don't I? Anyway, you should have an email that was dated August the 16th. And in this, I reiterated some of the information that was presented at the Planning Commission meeting. I think the thing that is of concern here is that, as you know, that on November 5th, the Supreme Court is going to hear the Virginia uranium case against the state for raising the moratorium. So if they're Virginia Uranium, Virginia Energy Resources, Mr. Coles are trying to have the moratorium lifted. I don't think they're trying to have it lifted so that they can graze cattle. I did send you, and I'll leave this letter with you as well, an attachment of the map, not that was in your packet, but the map that shows the sliver that is between what looks to be properties owned by the Coles. Ms. Frith is one little tiny part of that, and Southside Cattle Company. And I don't know if Southside Cattle Company is owned by Mr. Coles, if that's part of his operation or not, but I do know from looking at Virginia Energy Resources of Vancouver that Southside Cattle Company is listed as a subsidiary of Virginia Energy Resources. So, you know, when we look at this map and see that small sliver in there and know that there's an attempt to lift this moratorium for uranium mining, I think there are valid concerns. And I believe that if this goes to court November 5th, that we will have a better idea of the potential for the use of this land. So I'm asking that you deny the request right now until we have a chance to figure out what is going to happen with the moratorium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Mounty. We are down to John Cannon.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. I am John Cannon. I live in Halifax County. I have a major business there that I sold in 1998, about 300 people, so I'm a business guy. I have served on the Halifax Industrial Development Authority for 30 years, recently retired off that. I have been a commissioner on the Tobacco Commission. I know what it takes to bring industry into an area, such as Pittsylvania County and Halifax and Southside. We're fighting a hard battle here to get industry here. You've heard several people make comments that it's very difficult to bring an industry here, especially if you've got anything that's negative about your community. And I'm here to tell you, in 1982, I was one of the people that fought the Marline group that wanted to do the uranium here, and they left. And then early on, I was the first chairman of Virginia Coalition, and an active member of that. I'm also on the board of the RRBA, and we are very much interested in what's going on with the uranium issue. As you heard, it's also going to the Supreme Court. This sliver of land, it sounds like it's not much, ties together the property that will allow that uranium to be mined. I think you're all probably all aware of that, and I don't need to get much further detail than that. But I'm just telling you this from an economic development standpoint. I've brought industry into Halifax County, and I've seen it leave, and I'm telling you that any negative input at all to your process of bringing industry to Pittsylvania County, you will reap the benefits of it if there's uranium involved with it, because people do not want to bring their people here. We are losing doctors in Halifax County, and we're losing businesses in Halifax County, and it's a lot of it's a direct product of the threat of the uranium, only by water, but also by air. So I would ask you please to vote no in this request to zone from residential to agriculture. I do appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. Dan Gable.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I've, for the past 50 years, have a couple farms down in Ringgold, Virginia, which is down near Danville, of course. I'm terribly concerned about the uranium situation. I mean, I thought it was amusing to hear from Mr. Coles that has nothing to do with uranium, but as we all know, it does. And I won't get into the various facts that have been elaborated much more eloquently than I can, but I hope that you'll vote against this, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gable. We're now Mr. Scott Vanderhyde.
Good evening. My name is Scott Vanderhyde. I'm the Executive Director of the Roanoke River Basin Association. In addition, I also happen to be from Pittsylvania County originally and grew up not far from here. The Roanoke River Basin Association works throughout this region to promote the use and preservation of the basin's resources in order to ensure their benefit for present and future generations. Given that mission, we are concerned about the possibility of uranium mining in Pittsylvania County, both from an environmental standpoint, an economic development standpoint, and just from the impact that it might have to this community. Again, being from here, I understand that this county's historic roots are in agriculture. I understand the difficulty that we are currently having here to attract new industries, and in many cases, some of the success that's been had recently in doing so. Our concern in rezoning this area from R1 to A1 is that it will, excuse me, it will essentially put the property simply one step away from allowing uranium mining to happen simply by special use permit. As has been mentioned before earlier this evening, with the current case before the Supreme Court that is seeking to lift Virginia's moratorium on uranium mining, that will leave questions as to where things go from here if that were to happen. We're asking then that you all denied this rezoning request in order to ensure that if that were to happen, that the Board of Supervisors in the county will have a say down the road as to whether or not uranium mining will ultimately be allowed here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderhyde. Next is Will Cleveland.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Will Cleveland. Thank you for having me. I'm an attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center. I'm based in Charlottesville, Virginia. My organization has been tracking the uranium mining issue very closely for decades. I'm here to ask that you deny the rezoning application. The current use is reasonable. It's been zoned that way since 1991. The Planning Commission has recommended denying the rezoning 8-0. I heard Mr. Cole say that this isn't about agriculture and it's not about uranium mining. Repeat, it's not about uranium mining. All due respect to him, I disagree. The rezoning application talks about agriculture and all possible uses. One of those permissible uses is mining if you get a special use permit. Special use permit doesn't come before this board. It goes before the Board of Zoning Appeals. If you rezone this, that's the last say you ever have about this. And here's how I know this is about uranium mining. 3 years ago this month, Mr. Coles' lawyers filed a lawsuit down in Danville. They asked that federal judge to throw out the 30-year-old mining ban and to order every single state agency that has to do with uranium mining or mining of any kind to, quote, ignore that invalid state statute and accept and process Virginia Uranium's permit and license applications in the same manner they would an application relating to any other natural mineral resource. There are no federal regulations for how you open and operate a uranium mine. There are no state regulations for how you open and operate a uranium mine. They don't want you to have one. They don't want there to be regulations. They want to open a mine without any oversight at all. That's what they have asked a federal court to let them do. I would respectfully ask that you deny the rezoning and keep power for yourselves, not the Board of Zoning Appeals, to deny and prevent uranium mining in your area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland. Mark Barker.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, gentlemen of the board. My name is Mark Barker. I'm from 1828 Brandon Avenue, Roanoke, Virginia. I'm the executive assistant of the Blue Ridge Environmental Defense League. We are based out of Glendale Springs, North Carolina. We have members here in Pittsylvania County as well as a chapter group here in Pittsylvania County. And I respectfully request that y'all deny the rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Deborah Dix.
Deborah Dix, Danville Blairs. I hope that the board will leave the R1 as is. I do not agree with Mr. Coles that it's not about uranium mining, because who was Marline? A uranium mining company out of Canada. So I hope you do not rezone this to A1. As far as the Supreme Court, I really think it's terrible that Senator Cotton out of Arkansas recommended this, because I do not want the federal government in our business in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dix. Next up is Deborah Lovelace.
Deborah Lovelace, Callan Scranton. I also had emailed each of the board this afternoon. I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not. I'm not going to read it here. I'm not going to take up your time. I think everyone that has spoken tonight has made valid points that I agree with. I ask you to keep the zoning as is, R1. There is a house on the property. I do want to make a couple of points. I was told that there are also 2 wells and 2 septic systems on this property. As a farmer, I don't run my cattle over my septic systems. I don't run my John Deere over my septic systems. The other thing is, I think it was stated that all the property surrounding this was A1, but it's not. Right adjacent to this parcel is also R1, so that's even more of a reason to keep it as is. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lovelace. Last to sign up was Kay Patrick. Ms. Patrick.
Hi, my name is Kay Patrick, and I'm from the Callan-Scranton District, and I'd just like to say that I oppose changing the zoning on this property, basically because of the uranium issue. I thought we were done with it, but I guess we will be after the Supreme Court hears it, but I see no reason to change the zoning now. I think it's just, trying to clean up the dog before they take it to the show. And I don't think it's any real reason to do that if he is using it for an agricultural purpose. On a residential, I don't think anybody really cares, or it's not a big deal that it needs to be changed. And I think changing it now is just enhancing their cause for, selling a company or something. I don't think it's necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patrick. Mr. Coles, would you like to add anything, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I will close the public hearing at 7:50 and ask for the board's pleasure. Yes, sir, Dr. Miller.
I've listened to the citizens of the county as well as our adjoining county, and the people have spoken very, very clearly, very eloquently, and with gravity. And in case 1, R-18-013, I move to deny the request to rezone from R1 to A1.
Second.
Got a motion by, take that out, please. Got a motion by Dr. Miller, a second by Honorable Davis. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing
Mr.
none-
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have a couple questions for staff.
Yes, absolutely.
Is it true, Mr. Sides, any truth to the statement of Mr. Coles being able to apply for land use incentive without it being an A1?
Mr. Farmer, while I don't know the particulars because I don't administer the land use program,
Okay.
but I know the Planning Commission has frequently rezoned from R1 to A1 so people could go into land use.
Second question, if this case is voted no on, is there a time limit before Mr. Coles could reapply?
Yes, sir, it'd be 12 months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, please cast your vote. Everybody remember the motion. The motion is to deny. You got
And a
something?
yes vote is supporting the motion.
Yes, a yes vote is
And
to
a no.
voting to deny. All votes have been cast. Madam Clerk, please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously to deny. Property has not been rezoned. We're down to case number 2, public hearing rezoning case R18-015. I'll open the public hearing at 7:53. Mr. Sides.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Case R-18-015, Pamela Manning has petitioned to rezone 0.69 of an acre located on State Road 745, Mount View Road in the Chatham-Blair's election district from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to be combined with the adjacent parcels zoned A1. Once the property is rezoned to A1, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request by unanimous 8-0 vote. Staff summary is enclosed in the board packet, and Mr. Chairman, Ms. Pamela Manning is here to represent the petition.
Ms. Manning, do you have anything you'd like to add? Okay. No one signed up for the public hearing, so I will close the public hearing at 7:54 and entertain the board's pleasure. Yes, sir, Mr. Farmer.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for case R-18-05 to be 015 to be rezoned currently from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision to A1 Agricultural District.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Farmer, seconded by Mr. Barber. Any discussion on the motion? I will say I've been by and looked at this property, and, I haven't had any negative feedback from anyone. It is in my district, and I thank Mr. Farmer for making the motion on my behalf. So, seeing no other further questions, please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carried unanimously. Ms. Manning, your property has been rezoned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're down to case number 3, rezoning case R18-016, and we'll open that public hearing at 7:55. Mr. Sides.
Yes, in case R-18-016, Norma and Rodney Lee have petitioned to rezone 0.93 of an acre located on State Road 745, Mount View Road in the Chatham-Blair's election district from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to be combined with the A1 property located to the rear of the property. Once the property is rezoned to A1, then all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted use. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request by unanimous 8-0 vote. Staff summary is enclosed in your board packet. And again, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Pamela Manning is here to represent the petition.
Ms. Manning, do you have anything you'd like to add, dear? Okay, and no one signed up for this case either, so I will close the public hearing at 7:56 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, in case R-18-016, I move that we rezone the said property from R1 to A1.
Got a motion by Mr. Blackstock. Do I have a second? Motion seconded by Mr. Davis. Can you start over and let us redo that again? We're a little slow tonight. Okay, Mr. Blackstock. Mr. Davis. Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Carries unanimously. Ms. Manning, that property has also been rezoned.
Thank you, sir.
We're down to case number 4, rezoning case R18-017. We'll open that public hearing at 7:57. Mr. Sides.
In case R-18-017, Jessica Lynn Abbott has petitioned to rezone 1.07 acres located on State Road 659, Laurel Grove Road, in the Dan River Election District from B2 Business District General to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to make the zoning consistent with the current residential use. Once the property is rezoned to R1, then all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. The Planning Commission, with no opposition, recommended granting the petitioner's request by unanimous 8-0 vote. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chuck Esky is here to represent the petition.
Mr. Esky, do you have anything you'd like to add, sir? Okay, no one signed up for the public hearing, so I close the public hearing at 7:58 and entertain your board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, in the case of R-18-017, I make the motion that we entertain this as a go-ahead for this young man. I got to do it for free this time, first time. Thank you.
Okay, I got a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Scares. Is there any discussion on the motion? Please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. It's unanimous. Mr. Esky, property's been rezoned. Okay, we're down to item 10B, other public hearings. Each person addressing the board under a public hearing shall step up, give his or her name and district, and his or her place of residence for non-county citizens in an audible tone of voice for the record. And unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Speakers for a group shall be limited to 10 minutes. Speakers shall conclude their remarks at that time unless the consent of the board is affirmatively given to extend the speaker's allotted time. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. We're down to number 1, public hearing, solid waste ordinance amendment. We'll open that public hearing at 8 a.m. Mr. Sides.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as the board is aware, we have briefed you as we've worked through this process where a committee, the Solid Waste Administration Committee, has discussed ways to improve the administration and effectiveness of our current solid waste ordinance. We have unanimously agreed on a few revisions and amendments that included both input from county staff as well as constitutional officers. That amended version is attached tonight. I will refer any particular questions you may have about the amendments to our county attorney, Mr. Hunt. It has been properly advertised at this time.
Although there's numerous changes, the 4 major changes I think is worth noting. A definition of uninhabitable dwelling was added to section 17.2 as subsection M, and we changed the date in section 17.5 that is basically the due date for the solid waste fee and when and if interest was going to accrue. We also, in 17 -8B, -18B, we expanded the solid waste not disposed of in the county's landfill exemption to include waste that's disposed of in the county's landfill by a private hauler that pays the county's standard landfill tipping fee. And then we significantly changed section 1721, the violations of the chapter section. Before, we kind of had some anemic criminal penalties. We now, in our toolbox, are adding additional to criminal penalties, also the ability to have civil fines, which would work similar to a red light camera, meaning if we witness by means of technology or in person someone violating this ordinance, they can be given a ticket that is payable within 10 days at $50, and if they fail to pay within 10 days, it goes to $100. Obviously, they have the ability to argue this ticket in court, but those are the significant changes, and I know for people in the audience, we're going pretty fast here, but these have been discussed thoroughly in several work sessions of the board previous to tonight. And this has buy-in by the county staff and constitutional officers, including the sheriff, the commissioner of revenue, and the treasurer. So we just asked the board to, after the legally required public hearing, it's the county staff's recommendation that the changes to the county's solid waste ordinance be approved as presented in the packet.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. No one signed up of the public hearing, so I'll close the public hearing at 8:03 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the county solid waste ordinance as presented.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock, seconded by Mr. Davis. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please record your vote. All votes have been cast. Please tally the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to public hearing number 2, public hearing FY19 budget amendments. Ms. Vanderhyde.
Tonight's public hearing is being held tonight because the Code of Virginia states that in section 15.2-2507 that any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the current fiscal year as shown in the currently adopted budget as prescribed by section 15.2-2504. However, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditure shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by publishing a notice of a meeting and a public hearing once in a newspaper having general circulation in that locality at least 7 days prior to that meeting. Tonight's budget amendments that you all will be reviewing do exceed the 1% threshold, and as such, we did advertise this in the Star Tribune on August 8, 2018, which satisfies the 7-day requirement. The budget amendments being requested tonight do total $4,251,299.93. That includes $3,647,048.78 of school carryovers and $604,251.15 of county carryovers and other budget amendments. And you all should have received a copy of not only the advertisement, but also a detailed listing of all the items that total the $4,251,299.93. And staff does recommend that these amendments be approved tonight after the public is heard.
Thank you, Ms. Vanderhyde. No one signed up for the public hearing, so I will close it at 8:05. Is there any questions for Ms. Vanderhyde? Okay, board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the appropriation of the attached budget amendments totaling $4,251,299.93 to the FY 2019 county budget.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Farmer. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record your vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Unfinished business, 11A, Ms. Vanderhyde, FY18 year-end budget amendments.
Yes, this is the time of the year that we're playing in two different budgets at one time, so we're back to 2018 budgets. If you'll remember at your July 17th meeting, you all were presented with amendments to the 2018 budget, and these are just bookkeeping type entries as you all received a financial report tonight. Those figures do not change because of these amendments. We just cannot have any items that appear to be in the red when the auditors come for their annual review. And so these amendments had to be brought to you at the last meeting, but because they exceeded the threshold needed for you all to vote at that meeting, it did have to lay over for 10 days. And so tonight, you all are just, a motion has been made and seconded. So you all are now able to ask me any questions that you have on these amendments and then cast your vote.
Okay, is there any questions from Ms. Vanderhyde? Seeing none, board's pleasure.
We just need to vote tonight, right?
Just vote.
Yeah, we all vote, yeah. Okay, we got a motion and seconded it prior.
You can just select it and I'll change it. I'll go back to the previous meeting and put that motion.
Okay.
And do the roll call from there.
You need somebody to push second on you?
Yeah, push second.
I'll push it.
All right. Now cast the vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to new business. Sheriff's promissory estoppel contracts. Sheriff Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, board members, prior to June of this year, our sheriff's office was going through somewhat of a change. We had 15 deputies positions open, both in the field and the jail. And we made a petition to you. We brought to you what we thought were the problems. And from that, the board appropriated $100,000 for an initiative program for new hires. Several meetings with the county administration and finance in our office. We worked through the details, and part of that discussion was if a bonus was included, what guarantee would we have if someone were to come here and within a few months after, let's say, graduation from the academy, they decided to leave. So it was decided we would do somewhat of a contract, or in this case, a promissory estoppel. If that did happen, we would be able to have a legal means to try to recoup some of that funds. In that document, you will see that all of that is explained to the new hire. And they have a chance to either opt out of the initiative or opt in. It's going to be their decision. But we wanted them to know for sure what their promises were to us and what our promises were to them. Without a doubt, it has truly helped our initiative. Since that time, we've hired 6 new deputies, 4 of which are certified, which means we do not have the expense of sending them through the academy. 2 are non-certified, and we have about 4 more that we are doing the backgrounds on now. So I can tell you without reservation, your commitment to the sheriff's office has paid off in that. And we appreciate it. Everyone in the sheriff's office appreciates it. It will help in many, many arenas in that office. Additionally, we've talked about and in the process of the compression issue, the salary study, and the classification, and also the retention or a benefit for retirees. And we've had those discussions, and they are just in discussion. I would say that if there's an issue, I think there's a cost associated with the study. And maybe at some point in time, we can talk about how we can use some of the vacancy savings. I believe we were at about $193,000 we returned back to the county in vacancy savings. Part of that $100,000, I think, came from that fund. And maybe we can take a look at maybe funding that if grants are not available through that particular fund. So it's not any unobligated money. But again, I want to thank you because it has, and we didn't advertise. The word got out pretty quickly, and we had people started calling our office, wanting to come. We actually have had some to return, and it's simply because of the starting salary and trying to do better for their families. And again, we want to thank you for all you've done for us. If you have any questions about the documents itself, I'll be glad to answer those.
Any questions from the board, from Sheriff Taylor? Okay. What's the board's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think enough's been said. I want to thank the sheriff for the good job that he's doing. Keep up the good work. I make the motion authorizing the execution of the sheriff's estoppel contracts as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Barber. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. All votes have been cast. Please record the votes. It's unanimous. Thank you, Sheriff, for the great job you and your staff do. We appreciate it very much. We're down to B, Excellanet LLC, tobacco grant approval. Mr. Smitherman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm subbing for Mr. Rowe this evening. Sorry. There it is. Subbing for Mr. Rowe, who's out doing some good economic development work for the county. But I'm pleased to present to you this evening a grant agreement for about $1 million worth of investment to this county in broadband service without any county dollars. $491,000 coming from the Tobacco Commission, which is being matched by an equal investment by Excellanet, who is already in the county providing service on via our 911 communication towers. So we're asking the board this evening to accept this grant, the last mile broadband grant, and place it in the Economic Development Fund for administration. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Smitherman? Okay, I'll entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve and accept the last mile broadband grant and have the grant amount of $491,000 appropriated to the Economic Development Fund dependent upon final review and approval from the county attorney.
Motion made by Mr. Davis. Do I have a second to the motion? Second. Seconded by Dr. Miller. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to 12C, award a bid on roll-off truck for solid waste collection. Mr. Hicks.
The FY 18-19 budget included the purchase of this truck. We advertised for bids. We received 10 bids, and the apparent low bidder was the Excel Truck Group for a 2020 Freightliner truck, and the cost of the truck and an extended warranty would be $151,938. So we asked the board to authorize the purchase of the truck, and even if we order today, it doesn't get here till March of 2019, so it's a long lead time.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hicks? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion we approve this request.
Motion made by Mr. Barber. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion seconded by Mr. Farmer. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, we give new meaning to the old expression, drive it till the wheels fall off. We desperately need new equipment at the landfill and stuff, and junk since I've been on this board. Glad to see it.
Glad to see an upgrade.
Yeah.
Please cast your votes.
All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Award of bids of grapple boom truck for solid waste collection.
Okay, we also
Mr.
had
Hicks.
funds included in the budget for this. The boom truck or grapple truck is the one you see with the big box on the back, and it's got the grapple arm where it can pick up stuff and put it in the box. It is used fairly significantly now going around to all the compactor sites and mashing all that stuff down on Monday mornings so it can be hauled down the road. And it's also being used at our green box sites when they get there Monday and stuff's all over the ground and scattered all over else. We use that truck to clean those sites. We did receive bids, and again, the recommendation is to award the bid to the Excel Truck Group again for a 2020 Freightliner, and the amount is $134,997, and again, that will probably be here in April or May of next year.
Any questions of Mr. Hicks on the boom truck? Seeing none, I'll entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve that request also.
Mr. Barber makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Blackstock. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say I appreciate staff looking at it. I was reading about it, about going to the Freightliner. You can't go wrong with that. That was a good business decision, in my opinion, on the long term.
I mean, it matches what we've got too, so.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Please record your vote. All votes have been cast. Motion carries unanimously. All right, contract for compactor repairs. Mr. Hicks is still on. It's your night.
Okay, I put a sign in there that I think sort of sums up our solid waste collection system where it says, warning, if you don't schedule time for maintenance, your equipment will schedule it for you. And we're finding that out every day. We're having significant problems with our compactors and our sites. So we put it out for bid for the maintenance, and one of the main items we wanted to include in this bid would be an annual inspection of each compactor and the maintenance of those compactor sites. We got one bid from Mobile Container Services, which is a very good success story in Pittsylvania County. He started out very small, and now he's working on compactors and boxes all up and down the United States, North America, and all different places. So our recommendation is that we award that bid to with Mobile Container Services, and it's based on cost for each type of work that's done.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Hicks? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the county administrator to execute the contract with Mobile Container Services Incorporated as presented for the preventive maintenance and repairs for solid waste collection equipment.
Got a motion by Ms. Scarce. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Davis. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thanks to the board also.
We're down to EMS long-term planning study. Mr. Smitherman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've talked for many times about the state of our emergency medical service. As you know, we just recently executed a contract for a new backup provider. This is the third time we've dealt with that contract in just the last 20 months, I believe. We've had multiple system failures over that time, and it has lend itself to the question, where are we going long-term? What is the solution long-term to provide emergency medical services? We know the most important thing we can do is keep our volunteer system healthy and strong and make it sustainable as best we can. But we know long-term that volunteer model is probably not going to sustain over the next 20 years. So what does the county need to be doing in the interim to prepare for the eventual day where the county either becomes the backup service or, contrary, the primary service, possibly in the long-term future? In order to properly anticipate those critical junctures in our future, we thought it was important that we take a step back now that we do have some breathing room with our recent hiring of DRT, and see what we can learn from others throughout the nation that have also similarly dealt with this problem. We don't know exactly what that means right now. We're asking your permission to explore. We have gotten some leads on some nationwide consultants that help communities deal with this issue, as well as leads on potential funding sources for us to embark upon that process. It is our recommendation that the board authorize us to seek grant funding to engage upon that type project. If we are able to secure that grant funding, we would come back to the board with further recommendations of how to proceed, but we didn't want to take the first step without your input this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
The board have any questions for Mr. Smitherman? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize county staff to seek grant funding to engage with consultants to perform an EMS long-term sustainability study.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Blackstock. Do I have a second?
Second.
Start me over again, please. Mr. Blackstock. Mr. Davis. Can I get a second? Thank you. Motion made by Mr. Blackstock, seconded by Mr. Davis. Any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to add that we had a lengthy discussion at the committee meeting last week about this long-term study, and it's much needed. I think everybody agreed that EMS services and long-term, we need to look at the way we're doing this and get something in place and make some long-term plans.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please cast your vote. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to appointments. Ms. McCluster.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Danville Community College Advisory Board has a vacancy for Pittsylvania County. This is a 4-year term that begins on August 22nd, 2018. County staff recommends the appointment of Ms. Barbara Brown to the Danville Community College Advisory Board for a 4-year term starting on August the 22nd.
Okay. Board's pleasure.
Whose district does Ms. Barbara Brown reside in?
It's a countywide appointment. I'm not sure I know which
It is,
district.
it's countywide. I'm not sure which district.
She's, I know her.
You know her?
Yeah.
You okay with her?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I make a motion to appoint Ms. Barbara Brown to the Danville Community College Advisory Board for a 4-year term starting on August 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock, seconded by Mr. Farmer. I'll make one comment on that. I do know Ms. Brown. She actually is the retired principal in Mr. Barber's district from Tunstall High School for a pretty long tenure there. So I know Mr. Barber already knows her. I think she will be an asset to that board and do us a good job. So I think she'll fit in well with that group of educators. So, all right, all in, please cast your vote. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. And you'll contact them, I'm sure. We're down to 13B, appointment of the Department.
This got changed.
Yes, Department of Social Services, Nancy Eanes. Mr. Davis.
That's correct. I'll make the motion that we appoint Ms. Nancy Eames to the Department of Social Services Board for a 4-year term starting August the 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Barber. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, please cast your vote. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. Matters from work session, BZA attorney, Mr. Hunt.
Yes, money has been budgeted for a BZA attorney to assist them in all the things the BZA does. County staff recommends that the board authorize it to engage the services of a BZA attorney. We just need a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we authorize the hiring of a BZA attorney and an attorney for the BZA board, limited to the amount of money that's in the fiscal year operating budget.
Motion made by
in
Mr.
that
Blackstock.
particular line.
Motion made by Mr. Blackstock, seconded by Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, thank you. You're waiting for it to come up, aren't you?
Too quick or too slow?
All right, any discussion on the motion? Please cast your votes. All votes have been cast. Please record the vote. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to board member reports, and I'll start with Dr. Miller this time. Dr. Miller?
I have just a very small item that I would like to speak toward for the hearing of the board. I have been contacted by members of the community, and there is some significant displeasure with the process that's been used for entry into this building. And as a matter of fact, I happened to be down here, I guess maybe at the midpoint of last week, and there was a lady who was about 4'11", 10 or 11, and rather rotund, heavy, if you will, and respectful. And she had come up the side there and had gotten through the metal detector. And actually, one of the deputy sheriff's department officials had to instruct her to just stop and sit down until she could regain her composure and such forth. And so I would just simply like to, and I'm aware of the fact that the judge, ordered these matters, but I spoke with Attorney Hunt just earlier this afternoon, and he's going to communicate with me more on this, but I would like to ask the other board members if we will please begin to think about this and see if we can perhaps make a viable recommendation of some kind to alleviate the struggle.
Thank you, Dr. Miller.
We'll investigate it, we'll bring you back either solutions or options or something.
Mr. Davis.
I'd like to thank all those that are represented tonight. I won't call out all the names because I'm sure I'll miss one or two. But I do also want to compliment the youth we have tonight. They're taking notes, and you guys are the champions of our future. And so I do strongly recommend you that you would consider politics as one of your side items in the future, or main item. And because we need young minds, we need new growth in the county as well as the United States of America. Thank you there, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Davis, thank you. Mr. Blackstock?
I have none.
Mr. Farmer?
I'd just like to quickly recognize Scott Budd and his team with Kevin and Josh. As you know, we've probably been challenged technology in the last few meetings, and I'd say it's gotten better every time we try it. I just recognize those gentlemen for all their sacrifice.
Thank you. Mr. Barber?
I just wanted to piggyback on Mr. Mosa. Hey, when you check on that, I've been wondering that ever since tonight. Why can't you just come straight into the metal detector? You have to walk all the way down to the end of the parking lot, walk all the way back at the hill. I've been saying that ever since it done. That, I don't see where that would be a safety concern, because you still gotta go through the metal detector. I think that's what everybody's fussing about. You come out here and you gotta walk all the way down to the other county and come all the way back.
We'll put our brains together, me and Mr. Hicks and Judge, knowledge and try to come up with something.
In the original plans, there was some steps right there. I saw it in the plans. I don't know what happened to it.
Well, I stepped over, because I'm tall. Now they put rails all the way down, you can't do it no more.
I could never step over.
They saw you step over.
I might could climb.
Mr. Scarce.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just have a couple items. I happen to serve on that same committee, and I think if, Dr. Miller, I would ask tonight that you'd have a little conversation with the sheriff. He's here tonight. He can shed a little bit of light on why for the security and the worry about what could be placed here at night. So, I mean, there is some reasoning behind it, and I think he can share with you to give you a little more insight before you get back with the attorney. Okay?
In light of that new information, whatever you like, Sheriff, I'm good with.
You know, I want to reiterate again, we come over here a lot of times and you see us voting on issues, and maybe you see sometimes limited discussion and you wonder, you know, why it's such limited discussion. Trust me, there's a lot of discussion at the work session. So we kind of get a lot of the questions answered, and it's a great time for us to interact with staff and you to have the opportunity to see interaction between the board and the staff. And I want to once again compliment our staff. They do an outstanding job in preparing for those work sessions and getting us prepared for our meetings. So we appreciate it very much, Mr. Smitherman and your entire staff. We've got outstanding people, and I'm feel real fortunate to have them and to be able to work with them. Secondly, I want to say how privileged I feel and how honored I feel to serve with each and every member of this board. I'm not going to say we always agree on everything, because you wouldn't need 7 of us if we always agreed on everything. But I will say we're respectful of one another's opinions, and we listen, and I think we try to be open-minded about it and objective. And from me, you know, I'm nearing the end of a 2-year term as your chairman. I want to tell you how much I appreciate it, and I truly do respect each and every one of you. And as you already know, I'm always available with just a phone call. But I did want to say how much I appreciate each one of you. And you do an outstanding job for the citizens of the entire county, not just your own districts. And you look at it, I think, as the entire county, but certainly we all have concerns about our own districts, but I appreciate the fact you look at what's most beneficial to the entire county. So thank all of you very much. They won't say that about themselves, but I can say it. So County Administrator.
Well, I'd love to comment on an issue that affects every single district in here, and that's trash. It is a continuing challenge for us. We're seeing volume like we've never seen before. We're seeing abuse more acutely than we've ever seen it before. We are well on our way to improving that system, both on the collection side and the disposal side. We have probably 18 employees from different backgrounds engaged in this process, and we're starting to see some of the fruits of our labor. We have 2 of 7 or 8 cameras either installed or on their way to be installed right now in real time. We are working now to start piloting some additional enforcement measures and control measures around our green box sites. It doesn't matter where you live in this county right now, the solid waste collection issue is an issue. And I want the board to know and the citizens to know that it's still the most important thing on staff's plate. And we feel like 6 months from now, it will be there will be noticeable differences. It's easy to forget that we manage 35 different collection sites. Everyone says this is a big county. Well, let me tell you, it's a huge county when it comes to collecting and disposing of garbage. It makes our collection system much more challenging than our neighbors, more expensive, but we see a lot of opportunities for improvement. We are learning daily about mistakes we have made over the years, and we are learning from others. We have a group going to Bedford County tomorrow where we're learning how others have lived through the same things that we're living through now. And the good news is there is a better day, and there are plenty of other counties adjacent to us even that have already moved through that, and we're going to learn from them. I encourage folks to go to the PittsylvaniaLandfill.com website. We are slowly populating that with very important information for everyone, as well as real-time video of the sites that are now have operable cameras. And there's a place that for those that want to have it up running on their desktop during work or just check it out a couple times a day, if you see someone abusing one of our sites, there's a fillable form next to those videos where you can send us a note and tell us what you saw. Or if you are at a site and see a contractor disposing of construction debris, or you see someone inappropriately disposing of tires, and you catch a picture, there's a place for you to upload those pictures and let us know. But we're taking enforcement of this system very, very seriously. And I think the word is slowly getting out that it's a new day. And we're going to continue to push and push and push until our citizens have a top-notch, best-in-class collection system. And we continue to appreciate the comments, both positive and negative, that are coming our way, and we're responding to all those as they come in. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the comments about the staff. The cream has definitely risen, and everyone is really working hard for you to implement your policies as approved in this year's budget. And I couldn't be happier with the performance of our team this summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Smitherman. I forgot to mention the youth that are here tonight. Mr. Davis did, and I would echo his same sentiments. And I'm going to assume that all of you are from Mr. Tuart's class. No? We got some from Tuart's, some from the others. And I'm going to assume you need a signature tonight, don't you? Yes, sir. That you've been here. We're going to go into closed session. So when we start into closed session, I'm going to ask Mr. Smitherman if he will sign as county administrator, so you all can get that done and we can move into closed session. So I can entertain a motion to enter closed session.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we enter into closed session as amended to the original agenda.
Mr. Blackstock, motion made by Mr. Blackstock, seconded by Dr. Miller. Any discussion on the motion? Please cast your vote. I see all votes have been cast. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. I'll ask you to clear the courtroom, please.
Be it resolved that at the meeting of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors on August 21st, 2018, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirement of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and identified in the motion authorized the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any member believed that there was a departure from the requirements of the code, he shall so state prior to the vote indicating the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the minutes of the board. Kelly, you can do this with me.
I can. All right, Mr. Barber.
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Farmer.
Yes.
Dr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Scarce.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yes. There being no other business coming before this board, I declare the meeting adjourned.